Hi, I'm Emily from Calvert Library Fairview Branch. Thank you for tuning in to Calvert Library Black Authors Matter. In this video, Calvert librarians will recommend some stellar titles for teens and tweens to try. We have a fantastic lineup of books, everything from a manifesto to mysteries to zombies. Enjoy.
Everybody, this is Sandy. I work at the Twin Beaches branch. And when I first heard that we were doing a video about Black authors for kids, the first thing I thought of was I have to talk about Jason Reynolds. So if you don't know Jason Reynolds, you gotta find him. He is one of the just freshest, funnest, most poignant, most exciting voices in young kids' books right now. And even better, he is a homegrown talent. He actually was born in Washington, D.C. He grew up just up the road in Prince George's County and graduated from the University of Maryland. But now he's a superstar. He is, if you could go through his honors, Newbery Honor, National Book Award finalist, the Walter D. Myers Award, the NAACP Image Award, you could go on and on and on. He's also the Library of Congress's National Ambassador for Young People's Literature right now as well. But before all of that, he was a kid who didn't like to read. Like a lot of kids out there that don't like to read. And he said that this is what he finally realized. So he says, I know there's a lot of young people who hate reading. And I know that many of these book haters are boys. But I know a lot of these book hating boys don't actually hate books. They hate boredom. And he says, know that I feel you. I really do. Because even though I'm a writer, I hate boring books too. So that's what he decided. He's not going to write boring books. And so that's what you'll find with his stuff. So if you know Mr. Reynolds, then maybe you have read some of his track series. This is a book series for middle school books or middle school kids. Maybe you've read some of his teen books like All American Boys. This was a One Maryland One book several years ago. Maybe you're a superhero fan and you found his Marvel title, Miles Morales, Spider-Man. All excellent choices. But today I want to go in a little bit different direction. I want to talk about a nonfiction title that just came out this year. So for this one, Reynolds teamed up with noted researcher and professor and author, Dr. Ibram Kendi. Now, you may know Dr. Kendi from his best-selling book right now, How to Be an Anti-Racist. But before that, he wrote a huge title called Stamped from the Beginning. It's an incredibly well-researched and very detailed study of 400 years of racism in America. It's also 608 pages long, so it's a little intimidating. So what do you do if you want to take all of that information and turn it into something that is accessible and interesting, especially for kids? So it turns out what you do is hand all of that information over to Jason Reynolds and you let him write something. And so that's what they've done. So together they have written this book that's called Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. And they call it a remix of Dr. Kendi's book, which I think is a really good way to put it. So they've taken all of that information and they've put it into something that is not a history book. That's what Reynolds says from the very beginning. This is not a history book, or it's not a history book like you get in school. What he says is that this is a present book. I like that phrase. This is a book that tries to help us figure out how we've gotten where we are here, where we are today. And so he takes a look at all of this 400 years of history. There is some history, there's some dates, there's some people, there's some places. You can't get away from that. But mostly he takes all of this and makes it something that's poignant and surprising, enlightening, even funny sometimes. And it makes you to help you to understand what's happening in our world right now. It puts everything into context, because we can't understand where we are and where we need to go unless we understand where we've been. And that's really what this is all about. So, and honestly, it can be a little disheartening to read this book because the same themes keep coming up over and over again. So there's like through the pages, through the years, but ultimately he leaves you on a really hopeful note, especially for the next generation. So this is a book for teens, for tweens and their parents, and honestly, anybody who wants to have a better understanding of the systemic racism that has plagued this country for 400 years and wants to try to help to dismantle it. So he sums it up best at the very end and says, we can't attack a thing that we don't know. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tanya from the Calvert County Library, Prince Frederick Branch, and I'm here today to talk about my book, The Skin That I'm In. It is written by Sharon G. Flake It is a really interesting book because it talks about a young girl who learns to find peace with herself. She is a product of a single family home. Her mother makes her clothes because they can't afford to buy clothes. And she wears these clothes to school, but then she has a frenemy who allows her to wear her fancier clothes. And everything is fine as long as Malika does exactly what Shar wants. When she doesn't, that's when the trouble starts. She'll demand that she take off the clothes, and she has another frenemy who decides that she's really, really dark skinned. And so the name calling starts, Blackie, Blackie, I can't see you at nighttime, you're so dark. All these things that work to undermine and take away her self-esteem. Eventually, with the help of a teacher, she learns to know who she is without having to try to fit in with anybody else. She learns to enjoy who she is, which I think was really interesting for me because growing up, I was the darker sister and I was called names by my frenemies and my friends alike because everyone wants to join in on the joke, except that I didn't enjoy the joke because I was the butt of the joke. So the book really meant a lot to me, just because it brought me back to where I was as a preteen, teenager. And just like my main character, I finally learned to find peace and joy in my skin. And so I really recommend this book. Again, it is The Skin I'm In by Sharon G. Flake. It's a great book.
Oh, thanks, Tanya. That's fantastic. I'm Meg from Calvert Library, Prince Frederick, and I'm going to be talking about Spin by Lamar Giles. So this is a mystery. It's a detective mystery, a teen detective mystery. Kaya and Fuse, they're not friends. The only thing that connects them is their mutual love for DJ Parsec, who's also called Paris. She's best friends with Kaya from when they were young, and Fuse helps her grow into the very famous DJ that she becomes. The fact that both of those, Kaya and Fuse, were found at the scene of her death, it kind of adds a punch to the beginning. Spin was so satisfying, from its familiar odd couple detectives from vastly different backgrounds who put aside their biases to work together, to the subtle commentary on how crimes against Black people are handled compared to the crimes against white children. So the police in this story are not absent or made into the bad guys, but rather they are slightly humanized by the presence of one sympathetic detective who is a standout in an obviously otherwise apathetic system. One of the things I particularly liked about this story is it is a story of our time now. And I say that because I feel like a lot of recent young adult books have been set in the 80s or 90s, and they rather avoid the problems of the internet and social media. And they also have avoided some of the smartphone technology things that to get to the base of the story. But in Spin, the internet, social media, and the technology improvements over the last 10 years it really has come to the forefront in this story. They loom large. One of the biggest parts is the existence of a fandom that surrounds DJ Parsec, and the toxic elements of that fandom that are part and parcel with all of the different things that could be leading to this one person's death. So the fandom is a help and a hindrance in this, as just almost all of the technology is in the story. So Parsec Nation, tech, fandom, murder, odd couple detectives, a modern environment for the story. Spin comes out swinging and doesn't quit until the teenage detective sings.
Sounds amazing. Thank you, Meg. The next two books that we'll be presenting are books that you'll find in our juvenile fiction collection, geared towards upper elementary school and middle school students. I'm going to talk to you about From the Desk of Zoe Washington by Janae Marks. It's the beginning of summer, and talented baking enthusiast Zoe has just gotten home from a very successful 12th birthday party, during which she and her two best friends got to bake and decorate cupcakes in a real bakery. But then when she gets the mail for the day from the mailbox, she sees a letter addressed to her from a detention center. You see, Zoe lives with her mom and stepdad, the only dad she's ever known. But she knows that her biological father is in jail, having been convicted of murder before she was born. What she didn't know is that he's been writing to her all of these years, letters that she's never seen, and that he says he's innocent. Can you imagine? Suddenly, during the summer that Zoe has pictured as a relaxing time filled with baking and her exciting new baking internship, she becomes preoccupied with investigating her biological father's crime and trying to find out if he really did it. So the book explores the important subject of systemic racism while remaining uplifting and hopeful. As Bookpage said, never heavy-handed, Marx's prose is as sweet as one of Zoe's confections. And as the icing on the cake, From the Desk of Zoe Washington imparts important lessons about judging other people, whether by the color of their skin or by their presumed guilt or innocence. If you're interested in sampling the first chapter, try out Calvert Library's Book Bites, available on the platform where you get your podcasts. This is one of the books that we introduce. Give it a try.
Thank you, Emily. That was great. What I am going to tell you about is going to be Parker Inheritance. I am Pam, and I work at Fairview Branch. And this book is for middle school. It's for high school. I think it's for grown-ups. I mean, it really has grown-up issues. Also a mystery being solved by middle school kids. It's awesome. How well do you really know your grandma? Everybody loves grandma. But what was she like when she was younger? Who were her friends? What did she do? And when she passes away and you have to dig up everything that's in the attic, what are you going to find? There's something that leads to being disgraced. She did something disgraceful. And as they ask questions and go into things, the two kids, they find that the whole town remembers that disgraceful thing from the 50s. What could cause there to be a $40 million prize for solving this puzzle mystery? What happened? This is a 2019 Coretta Scott King winner. Oh gosh, I just really think it's very well written. I would definitely tell you to read this book.
Thank you, Pam. This is Reiner from the Fairview Branch. Justina Ireland pens an alternate post-Civil War history in this exciting book, Dread Nation. The Civil War is over, but mostly because the dead rose at Gettysburg and then started rising everywhere else. Now the dangerous task of killing these shamblers, the undead, rests on Black people and Native Americans taken from their homes and forced into combat training schools at a young age. Our protagonist, Jane McKean, studies to become an attendant, both trained in etiquette and combat to protect the well-to-do. She studies at the most prestigious combat schools for colored girls and proves to be the most gifted and skilled in her ranks. Jane secretly further hones her skills by haunting the countryside, clearing them from wandering undead. When the families around Baltimore County started to go missing, Jane is unwittingly caught in a conspiracy that places her in a dangerous position where she must fight for her life to survive, not only from the dead, but from far more dangerous enemies. Dread Nation is suitable for most readers into the mid-teen ranges. Yet the themes around slavery, freedom, and self-determination work well for adults as well. Justina Ireland continues Jane's story with her magnificent follow-up called Deathless Divide. There. We follow Jane into the West, where she continues to fight the undead and make sense of her role in this new world. Go check it out.
Thanks, Reiner. I'm Maya from the Fairview branch, and I picked up I Am Alfonso Jones, written by Tony Medina and illustrated by Stacey Robinson and John Jennings. This is a teen graphic novel, and I really wanted to do a graphic novel for this talk, and the author and both illustrators are all Black, and all are very active in Black Lives Matter and African American studies, Black studies, and everything to do with Black culture and just people. They're really interesting people. If you have time to look up the authors, they're really cool. So I Am Alfonso Jones follows Alfonso Jones, and not much of a spoiler because it happens on the first page. Alfonso Jones gets shot by the police. So this is the book to read for anyone of any age who wants to really understand the Black Lives Matter movement and experience the rippling effects of systemic racism from within a Black community. So Alfonso Jones is an average teen. He lives in the Bronx with his mom, who's from Puerto Rico. And they are excited because the next day his dad is finally going to be released from prison, where he was falsely accused of rape and murder, but he was finally exonerated and he's coming home from a prison in Portland. So they're getting the apartment ready for him. And Alfonso's never met him. He was arrested right before he was born. So Alfonso, he goes to a private school across the city that his mom fought to get him accepted into. He plays the trumpet after school in the jazz band. He's a bicycle messenger after school, and he has a big crush on his classmate, Danetta. So average teenager living in the Bronx. So we follow him going to school, being the bicycle courier, and living in the Bronx and just experiencing his life. The story really picks up one day, the day before his dad comes home. Danetta agrees to take him suit shopping. He doesn't have a suit, and everyone agrees, like, if you're going to meet your dad for the first time, you need to be wearing a suit. So they go suit shopping, and they're in the department store goofing around, trying on different jackets, and then out of the blue, the police rush in and shoot Alfonso. So it turns out that they were responding to a call from down the street, but the addresses got mixed up. Something that has happened too many times throughout all of this. So this is partly based in truth and partly just imagined a little bit to make it acceptable to readers, but it's a very, very hard story to read. But what's fascinating about it is we continue to follow Alfonso after he's shot as a ghost. So he becomes one of the ancestors, a community of ghosts from the Black community who have died throughout the years for various reasons, but they welcome him aboard their ghost metro, the ghost subway, and they, at each stop, they let Alfonso off so he can sorry, I'm gonna cry. This book is really hard. So he can find closure with the people in his life and understand more about what's happening in the world. And so he can see them. This book is so hard. So they can see them fighting for him and fighting for change. So it's beautiful. Everyone should read it. The illustrations are all black and white, so even the more graphic parts aren't visually graphic. It's just really the story that hits home. And it's a beautiful story. It makes you realize how bad systemic racism is and how it affects everyone in a community, not just the direct family or just the direct person, and how much power and hope there is for people who are fighting for change. So if that is near and dear to your heart, like it is for me, I recommend you pick up I Am Alfonso Jones. And I'm gonna go find a tissue now. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Maya. And hello, everyone. My name is Annalise, and you might recognize me from the Prince Frederick branch of Calvert Library. And I am here to recommend one of the best books that I read all year. and it is a mystery. Let me see, I've got my Libby pulled up. It's called Monday's Not Coming. It's written by Tiffany D. Jackson. Okay, and I was trying to think of a good way to condense how to talk about Monday's Not Coming. And I came around to the show Stranger Things on Netflix, and I know a lot of us really like that one. So Monday's Not Coming reminds me of Stranger Things because, you know, we all know poor Mike, sweet Mike, just sort of vanishes, right? And all of his friends are left wondering, where's Mike? And Mike's mom is maniacally searching for Mike. So Monday's Not Coming is a lot like Stranger Things if there was only one friend who even seemed to notice that Mike was gone, and the mom was actively working against finding him. Okay, so picture that. That's Monday's Not Coming. And to set the scene a little bit, it takes place in Southeast DC, which is really fun for us, I think, because there's a lot of fun little Easter eggs you'll recognize being from the area. They listen to go-go, they hang out on streets that you'll recognize the names of, a little bit in Baltimore as well. But so Southeast DC, Claudia, our heroine, is about to start 8th grade, and she's really excited to see her friend Monday, her very best friend for their whole lives. Hasn't seen her all summer long, hasn't heard from her, thinks it's sort of strange. And on the first day of school, Monday is just not there. And Claudia thinks that's really weird, but nobody else seems to. And as time passes, Monday is still not at school. Monday's still not talking to Claudia. Claudia is so out of character. And Claudia's just met with all of these like sideways answers and really unhelpful adults. So, you know, imagine that. What do you do if your very best friend in the whole world is just gone and you're the only one who seems to care? Like, you're left wondering, who am I without this friend? So time passes, Claudia chips away at this mystery. She has to just keep living her life. You know, she meets boys, she starts going to parties. Yeah, and all along there's this specter of what happened to Monday and what can she do about it. And something I loved about this book is that it's not told linearly. It's told in the before and the after. So that's very mysterious in and of itself, kind of figuring out pieces of these girls' lives as we go, learning what led up to the disappearance. Something else that I think makes this book very timely and poignant and touching is that it's inspired by real life events, not based on real life events, but inspired by. And it really begs the question, you know, why is less attention paid when Black girls and girls of color go missing? And it's all, you know, I mentioned before, it's all set in this Southeast DC. Gentrification is happening. We learn about Monday's and Claudia's economic privileges. So all of these real life things, real life factors lead to this really juicy sort of mystery. And I would say that Monday's Not Coming is thrilling. It's eerie. It's not scary, but it's eerie. It's exasperating. And by the time you finally figure out what happened to Monday, the whole world is upside down. You won't believe it. So if you are interested in issues that affect women and girls, if you like twisty mysteries, if you like Washington, D.C., then I would definitely recommend this as the book for you. And I should mention, this definitely is a book for more mature readers. I don't want to say older readers, you know, because that varies, but there's definitely strong language and mature themes. So it might be worth your time to look at some content advisories beforehand if you have concerns, but definitely check it out. 2 thumbs up.
Well, I hope you're as excited as I am to pick up these books. Visit calvertlibrary.info to find these titles and to explore all that Calvert Library has to offer.